It's going to start off with another character who serves to introduce it. His name is Man Afraid. It's going to start off with that. He's setting up what is happening to Crazy Horse's woman, who's named Blackshaw. Okay? Here's what happened to Crazy Horse when he was a young man and a child. With the arms of a child, he held the infant black buffalo woman and put her to sleep with whisper songs of the cradle. As a young man pelting her with cherries, he flushed deep crimson to find her child's breast, so soft, so gentle, so bespangled with beads. They had stolen off together under his blanket. She had stood beside him talking of dreams, of the red fox that had knocked over her kettle. She was taken from him to be No Water's bride. When he was a man, they'd brought him Blackshaw to ease his fury and live as his woman. Warriors with forked sticks caught rattlesnakes in the chokeberry patches. Blackshaw, this is her. How sweet to be night air, to be exquisite, to be dew-clad but naked and settling like fog on the flower of his body. How sweet to be exquisite, to be night air, to be dew-clad and naked and hurt and sore, and even weeping in the soul to hear his cries. In the night air, in the prison of the sky, even as with my heart's tongue I explore the taste of his sorrow and the depth of his shadow. How exquisite and sweet to be fog on the flower of Dakota clay and Crazy Horses crying from the darkness of heaven. Tell him I will come to him. Tell him I am the most fortunate woman among all the Agala. So this is how Pigeon gave me to him in the quiet bower and the nest of singing birds with the dew wrapped around me. So this is how the great god Crazy Horse found me in the quiet light, in the falling light of morning's glow. My face and scalp vermilion, my hair so shining, soft, my dress of white buckskin teeth so soft, so deep beaded, yoke blue, so wing-sleeved and fringed with particles of bone, so blue with powder. And this is how I received him. So Crazy Horse took me into his lodge and held me weeping to his heart. He loved me, he said, though I'd promised to take him and then wanted to go. And I said to him then in trembling horror, don't kill me, I said. I can be Blackshaw or even Black Buffalo Woman. My names are Legion. O Dawn Sparrow, my mother, how black his eyes are, how shining the air that entombs him, and cold the sorrow. How I squirmed and feared and grew sick in his embrace, swallowing my revulsion, mouth to mouth with him, I tasting his death, keeping silent in terror. Strange man of the Lakota, white as birch, bone powder, a star. How often he walks into lands beyond death where no one follows. O Dawn Sparrow, my mother, he knows like a risen man the depths of fog and sea and pasture. With his tongue he was able to probe my heart and taste its shadows. And find me, mother, and know my name. Blackshaw, he cried. Spilling seed, he shuddered, turned onto his back and wept like a child in the dark for a long time in sorrow, and cried out for his woman, his Black Buffalo Woman. But I am she, I said. My names are Legion. I love you, he said, but no. Then shrugged, as if he were throwing the cloak of his soul from his shoulders, and said in a cracked voice, his voice as weary as the last voice on earth, he would let me go. He would let me go. Oh, mother, I am a woman. So we walked from the lodge into the green forest, into the bower of birds, and he let me go, saying, run if you want to, just like that. And with ice in his eyes, pointed to the forest, where there would be sweet berries, and paths of earth and air worth taking, and the joys of the world. Oh, mother, I am weeping. He is not human. There is nothing human about him, yet for one moment only, when I turned to look at him, walking away into cedars at the shadow, my heart rode his shoulders. It was a sacred occasion. I await your coming in this haven of new pine straw and sweet marsh hay. So I walked into the dark shadows of cedar and fir, he watching from a distance from the shadows of leaves, and I walking away to where a tiny stream slipped down over the rocks, and he was gone then, far beyond the cottonwood and spruce, and letting me go. My mother was angry. She howled in the wind. She howled in the mountain. She howled out its thunder. The knife, she cried. Where is the knife? Disobedient daughter, she cried, tearing her hair, and I cried, mother, he let me go. And I sat in the dark for a long time in shadow, thinking of his shadow, of his letting me go, holding the knife behind me. And my mother said, "Daughter, feel your belly, there's a baby inside you." And I felt in my stomach of the seed settling there, and the dark rose around me with the face of a man. So I went back to the lodges, and my mother was laughing in the wind, saying, "Take your knife with you." And I went back to the village because I loved him and hated him now. And the baby stirred in me, and I wanted to be with him because he had let me go. And now a new life stirred warm in my belly. "Take the knife," she said, putting it in my hand. And I said, "No, Mother, I love him now." "Take the knife," said my mother, putting it in my hand, "because men are dead things, not human. Their souls like ice, because you hate him too." In the lodge of Crazy Horse I laid myself down, and there I wept at the snowy moon's passing, and there I wept, my black hair shining as the hair of a child. And Mother, I woke and wept, putting my fingers inside me and turning naked in the lodge, half bent over, moaning and turning, feeling Crazy Horse inside me, touching the crown of the head of the new infant. Crazy Horse left, upside down and deep in my body. Then rose in the dark and four winds, screaming, Crazy Horse, hoy!" The women of the village were crying in the distance. The men were shouting. It was far away, around many bends of the Little Bighorn. But still I heard the multitude of strong shouts and mocking voices echoing down the river like thunder. I groaned a few times, naked in Crazy Horse's lodge, naked at the entrance where the sun could see me. I groaned for my warrior and called out for the pony to bear him swiftly, for the air to shield him. "Crazy Horse," I cried. And I said, "Mother, it's a baby inside me. It's a baby that stirs and breathes inside me." And my mother said, "Yes, and it belongs to all men now. For all men are Crazy Horse, and all men have hurt you. All men like Crazy Horse have hurt you and raped you and told you they loved you and took you like Crazy Horse. This is your mother, Dawn Sparrow, who talks to you of murder. Take the knife behind you and put it in his heart." So Crazy Horse stopped for a fresh horse. And I was beside him, of buckskin and beads, with the knife behind me, my breast heaving and sweat in the rush of his heart. "There's a child inside me," I said, "smaller than a star, and his birth shall be wondrous." Then, like an animal, he fell away, but his eyes were shining. And lifting my dress, he put his fingers inside me, his nails red with bleeding, and touched the child's crown, smaller than a star. His fresh pony shifting, waiting, the cries of the dying, sounding in vagaries of wind from Crazy Grass and Rosebud Creek to the Little Bighorn. "It would be a good birth," I said, his arms tightening around me, his knife still behind me, in revelry in its cold breath and spirit of the wolf, in the smell of his blood and the death riding in him, and the wolf leaping from him, and the night descending, and the full light of day. "Oh, husband," I cried, "the birth will be easy. The child will come to the earth upside down, as if riding a swift horse." Then the great god, Crazy Horse, trembling, backing away, let my dress fall to my knees. His fresh pony shifting, waiting, the cries of the dying sounding in vagaries of wind from Grassy Grass and Rosebud Creek to the Little Bighorn. Dakota drums sounded, of Sitting Bull's dream, and the knife held behind me, arced in my hand to the ribs of Crazy Horse. At first he was startled, unable to think, and slowly he rose from the dust, shaking his head in the manner of a man reminded of things in the sound of drumming. "Blackshaw," he said, "I cannot advise you on these matters. I shall live no more forever." So saying, he climbed again to his pony and danced it into a froth and shook it over. "My heart is out of me," he said, blood riding many trails down his legs to the blanket of his pony. Then Crazy Horse laughed, not minding the sounds of the dying beside him. Blackshaw divined that men are born upside down as if falling from horses. And he imagined himself falling upside down, wet at the collar and swathed in blood, lying beside Crazy Horse at night. She dreamed of warriors and long knives falling, curling into the shadows, and guessed that all men are born falling, wailing into the shadows though washed in light, crying out for their mothers, that all men born of mothers live falling, surprised and dying though they hold crank council with their fathers and dance about the campfires, bare to breechcloth and leggings, proud of the shells and silver discs tied into their scalp locks and their tiny mirrors through which they fall to boundless sky. And then she knew that was at the heart of Crazy Horse, a sense of eternal falling through chokeberry leaves and the black hills of Dakota, as if he were a human, but a principle of dying, blown into life as a contrary wind to drag others behind him through the gate of heaven. So too Was he an emblem of death? For once in space would not the stars follow him into blackness of heaven, into the space of no time, where he was again rider, invulnerable, and bullets were slow, and no sun bleeding turned the earth round? Hoy, cried the great god crazy horse, lo, black shaw, just as surely was she, black buffalo woman, herself an emblem of woman, just as surely as crazy horse was an emblem of a collapsing star. It was then I understood that he was death immemorial, not human, but an emblem beyond time, exploding into meaning by the eternal machinery of days and nights and grinding of the stars. That is why the heavens are so black, to rise up a sun. That is why the earth is so drenched with death, to rise up his sun. And now a sun is riding inside me. The action of death is like a white man's machinery, the eternal cranking to rise up a sun. It was then I sensed Crazy Horse's son riding inside me. Oh, mother, I am a woman, so I held the knife up again. Crazy Horse was sleeping, or I thought it so. His eyes were open, watching in darkness, not sympathetic. I cannot advise you on this matter, he said sullenly, his voice quiet in the darkness. In the absence of his own mother, who had already risen to the sky in smoke. In the absence of Black Buffalo Woman, for whom he cried like a child. Then I heard the death in him, like a rush of warriors to the little bighorn. I heard the sound of hooves and the voice of the golden horn. Crazy Horse, the innumerable, was pounding from the chest, for he lived in all time as an emblem of death, and there is no event or woman on earth that does not collide with the eternal. So I heard the pounding of his heart in my own brain, where I live, innumerable as an emblem of birth, as birth storm, as black show, as Black Buffalo Woman. And a great cry rose from me, for I'd seen the truth. And before my eyes 1,000 snows turned into 1,000 springs with flowers. The mutable became the immutable, and Crazy Horse walked the earth as a principle, as all of us walk, in collusion with the eternal forms and meaning of ourselves. So his passing but accomplished nothing. I loved him too. So I lowered the knife and cut myself from the back of the tent, and then I was gone.
Wow.